Thank you, Presiding Officer. I congratulate Faisal Chowdhury on securing this Diabetes Tech debate. And I also want to thank Diabetes Scotland and the Insulin Pump Awareness Group for their briefings ahead of the debate and for all the work that they do to support people and families living with diabetes. I will remind Chamber that I am a type 1 diabetic and I use a hybrid closed-loop system myself. I was diagnosed on my 12th birthday, and that wasn't yesterday, Presiding Officer. Two of my sisters and my mum also have type 1 diabetes. I got my first pump 25 years ago when I lived and worked in Los Angeles, and that's where the Medtronic pumps are manufactured. And given my professional background and as a nurse, I joined the cross-party group on diabetes in 2015, before I even was elected to this place, and now I am co-convener of that cross-party group with Paul O'Kane. You'd think I would be a total expert in managing my own blood glucose, counting carbs, managing exercise, doing all that balancing, but I'm not. This work environment that we have right here doesn't make it easy. Diabetes is relentless. It's part of life 24/7. There is no opportunity to take the day off without facing some consequences. And I want to thank my diabetes team in NHS Dumfries and Galloway for their support, especially their non-judgmental support, because that non-judgment is vitally important. But this debate isn't a woes me debate, though, Presiding Officer. I would like to mention that, already there are 33,452 people living with type 1 in Scotland. Type 1 diabetes is associated with physical and mental health problems that can be caused by the demands of managing their diabetes daily, coping with diabetes-related complications and worrying about future complications. Diabetes-related complications do place a substantial burden on the NHS in UK, and Mr Chowdhury has mentioned this. The UK spends about £10 billion annually on diabetes, and 80% of that is treating complications. I've raised this at Health Committee many times in this session and the previous session, Presiding Officer, and given that people with type 1 diabetes could or have access to the right technologies to manage their condition is a priority in the Scottish Government's Diabetes Improvement Plan. I welcome this. And we know that demand for closed-loop systems and the artificial pancreas is increasing, and many people with type 1 diabetes expected to benefit from these systems in the future. Presiding Officer, the motion mentions that people living with type 1 diabetes make an extra 180 decisions every day. I read that information in a Stanford Medicine blog, which focused on avoiding hypoglycemic seizures during sleep. That is a particular issue when it comes to paediatrics. That's why the technology is so fantastic for parents to help monitor their wean's blood glucose overnight. So I do think the burden of any number of extra decisions is pretty valid to reflect upon. And managing diabetes for optimum blood glucose control requires making decisions on managing blood glucose levels, dietary intake, working out how many carbs, protein and fat is on your plate, whether those carbs are low glucose index or high glucose index carbs, how exercise will interfere with the glucose levels, and whether you have a backup or replacement supplies in the car or at home or in the office in case the pump cannula becomes dislodged or even pulled out. And just as we were sitting down, Presiding Officer, my continuous glucose monitor alerted me that it needed changed. So I don't have any monitoring of my blood glucose for the next hour until I get up to the office. And using the tech, it does minimise manual interventions, it does simplify decision making, and it does ease the burden of the mental workload. We know the tech has been described as absolutely transformative in the self-management of diabetes. However, Presiding Officer, the availability of the tech is not equal across Scotland, and we've just heard that. And I note from the member there are specific challenges faced in Lothian. And we have heard this at the CPG and at the recent diabetes event that I hosted here in Parliament. We know there can be many complex reasons for this disparity, but there is no doubt that funding plays a part. I am aware of the work of the Health Improvement Scotland's Health Technology Group that they've carried out and the recommendations for the closed-loop systems, and of course we should highlight the SIGN guidelines. So I ask the Minister to continue to work and implement the Diabetes Improvement Plan and to work with health boards to ensure that all those who can benefit from diabetes tech have the opportunity to do so. Thank you, Presiding Officer.